Washington County's Republican primary election held on June 25th was one of 13 counties challenged by candidate Colby Jenkins running for U.S. House District 2. After two recounts of adjudicated votes, or votes that were in question, and combing through postmarks on ballots received by mail after the election, Washington County Clerk Auditor Ryan Sullivan made his final report to Washington County Commissioners.
When the election staff went to commit the adjudicated ballots in our election software, they received an error message. When the final election results were printed, it was evident that the adjudicated ballots had not been assigned to the respective candidates. We had 36,657 votes with a turnout of 53.11%. There were 2,405 ballots not counted, and I will give a breakdown of what those consist of. So for Colby Jenkins, the total is 21,438, and for Celeste Maloy, 14,722.
The final vote counted in Washington County gave Jenkins an extra 26 votes and Maloy 10. The initial difference between Jenkins and Maloy was 214 votes statewide. The recount turned up a 176 vote difference, allowing Maloy to retain her seat as Utah's U.S. representative in Congress. Sullivan said by working with a vendor of the vote counting machine, they did find votes in a queue that weren't originally added in.
I reached out to our software vendor as well as the Lieutenant Governor's office and learned that a similar issue had been discovered in Tooele County. 3 didn't really matter because they were undervotes, like they didn't vote for either of the candidate, and then there were 3 in there that were actually Jenkins votes, so we were able to get those recorded in his vote tally.
The rest of the votes came from approved postmarks. Their report came after he and several others spent many hours into the weekend recounting ballots.
But of the 659 late ballots that could not be counted, I counted 101 that were not clearly marked. The remaining ballots were clearly marked late. Of the late ballots, 223 went to Las Vegas.
I looked through every single one of those with a magnifying glass that were postmarked late and or had a very unclear postmark, and trying to look, and I was the 9th person to do so.
To test the mailing system, Sullivan said he mailed out 9 letters from various post office boxes and times in and around St. George, and only 1 was delayed with a postmark.
Now we all know the elections aren't perfect, and here's our outlier. This one was dropped in a cluster box in a residential neighborhood on July 11th at 8 p.m. That was a Thursday, I believe. So I would expect that this would get picked up the following day on Friday on the 12th and be postmarked on the 12th. But this guy right here didn't get postmarked until the 16th in Las Vegas. So it was in Never Never Land for 4 days. I can't explain it. So that's our findings. Again, to me, it reiterates putting your ballot in the mail. It would be my last resort.
The lesson learned here for voters should be to hand deliver their ballots into one of the 18 voter boxes available, or vote in person.
But get it in early. This is important. Voting is important. We had a little over 53% turnout. That's not horrible, but man, half the people didn't vote. We want you to vote. We want you to research the issues and the candidates and have your voice heard, but do so early so that we make sure that those ballots get in. Then there's no issue for a postmark.
The late ballots were probably reviewed at least 10 times, including the first election. I have personally examined each of them twice to ensure that all valid ballots were counted.
In order to avoid this from happening again, Sullivan said they will make sure to back up the system vote count.
Our vendor gave us some instructions on that we can make a backup before we commit results. So if we do have an issue, we can go back to the back. We don't have to redo all of the adjudication again. But
The other is to make sure to mark their ballots accurately. Washington County Commissioners commended the canvassers for their work in upholding transparency in America's county.
Our elections are what safeguard our republic, and so we need to make sure that everything is accurate, legal, and that's really all anybody should be able to expect out of an election, right?
In Washington County, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.